I still remember the first glimpse of that campsite, the kind that makes you stop mid-step and look twice, because something feels off even before you know why. We'd been hiking along a narrow forest trail in the foothills west of the Cascades, the kind of trail that sees a few backpackers in summer but stays quiet in the shoulder months. It was late September, mist clinging low to the pines, and our group of four, me, Mark, his wife Dana, and old Pete, had been looking for a good place to set up for the night. Then we spotted it, a neat little clearing beside the creek, ringed by mossy stones, a tidy fire pit in the centre, and what looked like a modern two-person dome tent standing there, like someone had just zipped it closed a minute ago. At first, we thought we'd stumbled onto an occupied site. The air had that faint tang of wood smoke, not fresh, but not yet gone, and a few pans sat on a folding camp table. There was food laid out, an open loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, a half-full pot of stew still sitting on a small propane stove. But there wasn't a soul around. "Hello," Dana called, lifting her voice over the creek. Nothing. No rustle, no footsteps. Just the soft hiss of water over stones. We spread out a little, not wanting to trespass, but curious. I noticed right away how orderly everything was. No signs of struggle or panic, no scattered gear. The tent was zipped up tight, the lantern inside still standing upright. Mark knelt and touched the ashes in the fire pit. "Cold," he said. "Been out a few hours at least." Pete, always the cautious one, muttered, "Maybe they went for water or a hike." But the pack, hanging from a nearby branch, had 2 full bottles inside and a trail map neatly folded on the table beside them. That was when the feeling truly sank in, that prickling unease that seems to crawl right under your skin. It wasn't just that the place was empty, it was too perfect, like someone had walked away mid-meal, mid-thought, and simply ceased to exist. We debated what to do. Night wasn't far off, and the idea of using someone else's camp didn't sit right. But the ground was dry and flat, and we hadn't seen another clearing for miles. Eventually, curiosity won out over discomfort. We decided to look around before choosing whether to stay. I remember the silence of that moment. Even the creek seemed to hush as we started our slow search outward from the fire ring, calling softly now and then, hoping, though I'm not sure for what. The forest closed around us, deep green and wet. Our boots sank softly into the moss, and somewhere in the stillness, something, a sense, a chill, a whisper made the hair on my arms stand on end. Mark was the first to suggest we fan out, keeping the camp in sight but checking the surrounding woods for 100 yards or so. We each took a direction. He went upstream along the creek. Dana followed the faint path downhill. Pete started, into the thicker timber, and I stayed near the clearing, circling slowly. I didn't like how the place felt, quieter than before, as if the forest itself were listening. Every twig snap sounded sharp enough to make me turn my head. About 20 paces behind the tent, I found footprints, 2 sets, maybe 3, all heading toward the creek. They weren't fresh, but they hadn't been rained on either. One pair looked small, like a woman's or maybe a teenager's. The other broader and deeper. They led down to the water and stopped right at the edge. No return prints. The creek there wasn't deep, maybe knee-high, but the current was fast, and on the opposite bank, the mud was undisturbed. I called for the others. Dana came running first, her voice thin in the cool air. "Nothing this way," she said, breathing hard. "No trail markers, no gear, nothing." Mark and Pete joined us a moment later. We all stared at those prints by the water. Pete crouched and touched the ground. "Could have washed away if they crossed," he muttered. "But why barefoot?" He pointed at one faint print, the toes clear as day. Back at camp, the details that had seemed harmless before started to bother us more. A phone charger on the picnic table, but no phone. 2 mugs beside the fire, both half full of coffee, turned cold. A journal open beside the stove, the last entry dated 2 days prior. Finally found the perfect spot by the creek, staying here a couple nights. No sign-off, no further words. We checked the tent next. Mark hesitated, then unzipped it halfway. Inside, the sleeping bags were neatly laid out. Clothes folded, a small lantern hung from the ceiling loop, its switch still turned on, battery dead. 2 backpacks leaned side by side, both zipped. Everything a person would need was there. Except the people. Dana rubbed her arms, shivering, though the air wasn't cold. "They didn't just walk off," she whispered. "Nobody leaves camp like this." Pete was scanning the tree line, his brow furrowed. "Could have been picked up," he said. "Rescue? Evac?" "Then why not take their gear?" Mark asked quietly. "Or at least leave a note." The question hung there like smoke from a long, dead fire. We stood among their things. Strangers in another's life abruptly paused, and I couldn't shake the sense that whoever they were, they hadn't gone willingly or hadn't gone far. The sun was sinking fast behind the ridge, painting the clearing in long shadows. That was when the forest began to feel different, heavier somehow, like the trees were leaning in. We decided to search once more before dark, this time sticking together. I grabbed my headlamp from my pack, though I didn't turn it on yet. The dimming light was just enough to see the ground. We started by circling the campsite in a widening loop. The forest floor was soft, covered in pine needles and damp moss, and it swallowed sound in that strange, muffled way that can make you feel both hidden and watched. About 50 yards out, Pete spotted something. "Over here," he called, his voice low. We hurried over. There, caught in a tangle of fern, was a torn piece of blue nylon, about the size of a hand, frayed at the edges. It looked like it had been ripped from a rain jacket or tent fly. "Same colour as that tarp by the fire pit," Dana murmured. A few feet away lay a metal spork, half buried in the moss, dull with dirt. And then, about 10 yards beyond that, the ground changed. A small patch of mud with 2 deep impressions. Knees, maybe. "Someone fell here," Mark said. He glanced around, scanning the undergrowth. "But where'd they go after?" We followed what might have been a faint path, or maybe we were just imagining one, until we reached a hollow log near the creek bend. The air grew cooler, and the smell changed. It wasn't rot exactly, but damp and earthy, with an edge of something metallic. Pete shined his flashlight into the hollow, and I swear, my pulse jumped. Inside were 3 things: a folded flannel shirt, a dented canteen, and a small knife. Clean, no rust, blade open, no blood, no bones, just those strange little leftovers, as though someone had been interrupted while hiding them. Dana wanted to turn back immediately, and honestly, I didn't blame her. The woods were darker by the minute, the last light fading to a dull grey. But Mark wasn't ready to quit. "We should mark the site," he said, pulling out a bit of orange cord to tie on a branch. "Come back in daylight." We made our way back to camp in silence, and when the tent came into view again, something about it looked wrong. Not the tent itself, but the shadows around it. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw movement near the fire ring, just a flicker of shape and motion, but when I turned my headlamp on, there was nothing. Just the same neat camp, the same untouched meal, as if it had been waiting for us all along. We gathered close to the dead fire, the glow from our own small lantern throwing uneven light across the scene. The mist had thickened, clinging low to the ground, and the creek sounded louder now, like it had moved closer somehow. None of us said much for a while. The silence felt like part of the mystery. Something we didn't dare break too quickly. Finally, Pete spoke. "We can't just sleep here," he said flatly. "Not until we know what happened." Dana nodded, arms wrapped around herself. "Then what? It'll be pitch dark in half an hour. You want to hike out blind?" We all looked at one another, weighing it. Mark was the most practical of us. "We've got 4 tents between us," he said, "and enough food. We set up a second fire, stay together and wait till morning. We'll head to the ranger station first thing." That seemed reasonable, though none of us felt settled about it. Still, we needed warmth and light, so we built a new fire, not touching. Their wood, though there was plenty stacked by the pit. Something about using their supplies felt wrong, almost disrespectful, like crossing a line we didn't understand. The flames took slowly, snapping and crackling against the damp air. As the warmth spread, I found myself watching the zipped tent again. It looked so peaceful there, almost inviting. Then Dana noticed it too. "Did you guys close that flap?" she asked quietly. Mark frowned. "I did." "Why?" "Because," she whispered, "it's open now." We all turned. The tent door, which had been zipped tight not 15 minutes earlier, hung open by a few inches. The interior was black as pitch. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Mark, muttering something about wind or uneven ground, walked over and crouched beside it. He pulled the flap down, zipped it shut, and brushed his hands off like he was trying to rid himself of something unseen. We all stayed close to the fire after that. No jokes, no stories, just the pop of wood and the faint creak of branches overhead. I remember staring into the flames, thinking about those footprints by the creek, the torn nylon, the open knife in the log. Every explanation I came up with sounded thin. Sometime around midnight, I thought I heard voices. Faint, distant, maybe upstream, just enough to raise the hair on my neck. I stood, straining to listen, but the sound faded into the wind. When I turned back, I noticed something I hadn't before. A set of wet footprints leading from the creek straight toward the abandoned tent. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks in the firelight. Shadows shifting, the kind that make patterns out of nothing. But when I stepped closer, the footprints were unmistakable, bare, small, wet. They stopped right at the tent flap. "Mark," I said, my voice low, "you better come look at this." He joined me, frowning. "We didn't walk there," he said, scanning the ground. No one did. The prints glistened faintly in the lantern's light, as if they'd been made moments ago. The air smelled of river water and cold moss. Pete rose slowly, every movement deliberate. "I told you we shouldn't stay." His voice was barely above a whisper. Dana was already backing toward the fire, eyes wide. "We should go now," she said. "Forget the tents, forget everything." But the forest around us was black as ink, the trail back uncertain, and the thought of hiking it by headlamp seemed worse than staying put. So we did what frightened people often do. We froze, trying to pretend stillness meant safety. Then came the sound. Soft at first, like a boot slipping in mud. Then another, from the dark, just beyond the firelight, near the creek. Mark swung his light toward the noise, but it caught only trees and mist. "Hello?" he called, his voice brittle. No answer. A shape flickered at the edge of the beam, a shadow between two pines, and then it was gone. We heard something. Else, though, the faint sound of metal striking rock, maybe 50 feet away. It came once, then again, like someone tapping rhythmically. Pete grabbed the hatchet from his belt and whispered, "Pack up, now!" We moved fast, hearts pounding, shoving things into our packs without care. As I bent to douse the fire, I saw the tent flap again. Wide open now, the inside darker than ever. I swear I saw movement inside, just a ripple of fabric or breath of air. I didn't look twice. We left that place in a hurry, following our own trail back by headlamp. The forest swallowed every sound behind us, as if nothing had ever happened. When we finally reached the old logging road where we'd parked, dawn was just breaking. Pale light filtering through fog. None of us said a word until we saw the truck. A week later, I called the ranger station. They said a pair of campers had been reported missing in that area 3 days before we found the site. Search teams went out. Found nothing. No footprints, no tent, no sign at all. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I still see those wet tracks by the firelight. And I wonder whether we arrived too late or just in time to leave.